Our first reading today is a familiar one, the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. Our second reading comes from Acts chapter 9, verses 36 through 43. Now in Joppa there was a disciple whose name was Tabitha, which is in Greek is Dorcas. She was devoted to good works and acts of charity. At that time she became ill and died. When they had washed her, they laid her in a room upstairs. Since Lydda was near Joppa, the disciples, who heard that Peter was there, sent 2 men to him with the request, "Please come to us without delay." So Peter got up and went with them, and when he arrived, they took him to the room upstairs. All the widows stood beside him, weeping and showing tunics and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was with them. Peter put all of them outside, then he knelt down and prayed. He turned to the body and said, "Tabitha, get up." Then she opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. He gave her his hand and helped her up. Then calling the saints and widows, he showed her to be alive. This became known through Joppa, and many believed in the Lord. Meanwhile, he stayed in Joppa for some time with a certain Simon, a tanner. May God bless the reading and hearing of the holy word. Amen.
Sheila, thank you so much for reading the scripture readings for this morning. Today is Mother's Day, as the children already pointed out earlier today. For some of us, this is the most wonderful day of the year, and for others, the most dreadful one, because of all the experiences or of own history going through. Today, it's all about mothers, and there are many mothers in the Bible. The most famous of them is Mary, mother of Joseph. No, today's text is not about Mary, but about another woman, Tabitha, or Dorcas. I do not know if she was a mother or not. However, I know that this text, which Sheila read to us today, is the only time in which she appears. And without her, we might not be here. Let me get started from the beginning. It's in the books of Acts, which is the book right after the 4 Gospels. And we assume that Luke, the Gospel writer, wrote Acts. So this is like the sequel. So what happens then? So you see already the trailer in the stories, in the resurrection story, what's coming, and whoops, here you know, Luke 2, or known as Acts. So if we compare Luke and Acts, we see a lot of similarities. And just a couple of weeks ago, we are still in the Easter season, we heard the Easter story from Luke. So basically, we are just following the story. It is a wonderful continuation. And I want to say thank you for being with us today as we figure out what's happening now after Jesus is resurrected. I don't know if you noticed it, because the English language is a wonderful language, but in contrast to other languages, all the articles are the, and all the nouns you cannot see if it is male or female. So just put your hat on. And Sheila, you read it so beautifully. But if you look in the first line, first sentence, 7th word, a disciple. We just read over it because we know the 12 disciples and go on. However, if you know a little bit of Greek or any other language where they have articles, you will find out that right here in today's text, perfect for Mother's Day, is, drumroll, 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 the only female disciple in the whole New Testament. Isn't that exciting? I know you don't really get it, but it's totally, totally exciting. Because right here for Mother's Day, we have the first and only female disciple. That's the only word in the Greek, in the New Testament, that word is used. And you might wonder, well, what about the other women? We talked about Easter, and we know of women being there, right there at the tomb. You're correct. There were women who were the first ones telling the story. But they were not called disciples. Here we have the Word, and we all know how important words can be. Over there, especially in Luke's Gospel, did I tell you that Acts is actually Luke number 2? Especially in Luke's Gospel. There are so many stories about women in the Bible. And right now, she is called a female, the only one female disciple. Isn't that the best mother's gift ever? Because Mother's Day is not a Christian holiday, but there are these beautiful, beautiful disciples here, right here amongst us. Tabitha, or Dorcas. She is, Dorcas is kind of a funny name to say in English. But she is unique. She has basically two cultures, depending on which language you're going to use, either Tabitha or Dorcas. Most of us have the same language like the majority of, we speak, and the culture, this is where we are from. However, maybe you can relate it to, some of us are called Mom, and then we are called Mrs. So-and-so. Maybe similar to that. We're living in two cultures at the same time, depending on who is addressing us. So therefore, it's either Tabitha or Dorcas. Assume she was pretty wealthy because she made clothes and gave them away to others. If anybody knows my skills, it's not in sewing. However, there are beautiful, wonderful sewers, seamstresses right amongst us. So to all of those who can actually fiddle and some thread, thank you. You might be some of the Tabithas in our stories. You might also be a Tabitha if you share God's love in all the many talents you have. It could be big, big hugs. It could be the casserole dish, whatever it might be. Thank you. Because through you, through your acts, the story, the witness is shared with others. The kids had such a fun, and I really liked Fletcher's answers about what is a witness to see somebody who was speeding over the speed limit. A witness, my good friend Google tells me, a witness is a person who gives evidence, provides facts, personal knowledge. So Tabitha is one, maybe the only one in the Greek right now who we know is a female disciple giving witnesses. But we are all witnesses as we live and breathe the gospel. And did you know also something fascinating about the story? There are many ways in which you can be a witness. You might have probably seen those. I'm thinking of 71 corner Broad Street, people standing with their sign, John 3:16. That's a witness. But there are also other ways of being witnesses of Jesus' love. And if you look at this text today, which some of us might just think like, a nice text, whatever, let's go on. This text is totally political. And you say, politics has nothing to do in church. It is a political text because not only is it about Tabitha and Dorcas, because under Jesus' reign Everybody is treated equally. At the time, especially when women did not have a voice, they were not allowed to be witnesses in court, and they were only seen in comparison with males. But here she is. And Jesus, just as we hear every time in our video or as our big welcoming rainbow circle says, any way the world describes you or you describe yourself, you are welcome here. Jesus calls you. You are a disciple. However, Peter in our story, he is political as well. Let me tell you why, because it is fascinating. So, Dorcas, Tabitha, she passes away, unfortunately, and I can already smell the casserole dishes. She has a whole support system around her. All of them with hugs, all of them showing her beautiful, wonderful creations of clothes and tunics. And they're all there, and they're all mourning like what we have done so many times, being there with others when somebody is going through a hard time. And they know that Peter was in Lydda, near Joppa. Or you just say near. It's about 20 kilometers, 15 miles, half marathon away. So that was the time before Uber. Okay, somebody had to run half marathon to get Peter, and Peter just runs all the way back. That's at about 6 hours, running back and forth. And by that time, unfortunately, Tabitha. Now, here is the political part with Peter. He, just like the text says, he actually got up with them. He took all the mourning people, all the widows. He said, I'm very sorry, give me some space. Walks into the room where she is. She's already passed. I'm very sorry to say. Peter raises her. And did you get it? That actually he helped. He, in verse 41, gave her his hand and helped her up. And we just read it and say, not a big deal. She was dead. You're not supposed to touch or to be around if you're not supposed to be a close relative, a person who is dead. Big no, no. Peter violates the laws. What is the custom at that time? And then, just in the last sentence, I have no idea what is in the gospel. He stayed in Joppa for some time with a certain Simon, a tanner. Why is it in here what his job is? Who cares what somebody's job is at that time? He's a tanner. He deals with dead animal skin. No, no, no. We just read over it because we don't have the details. So Peter stays with Simon. Another very absolutely absurd, rule-breaking thing he does. He stays with somebody who's not only physically dirty, but also in a very abstract way, religious way, dirty. So Peter and Tabitha, a story of rule-breaking Christians. They do what is not the norm. And we are just glossing over it as nothing has happened. So if both of them are in the New Testament, in the story of Acts, where everything is starting, the whole church is just developing, what does it say for us? I wonder, with whatever is going on in the world right now, why is the story in here? And it might be a God incident that the people who put together the lectionary chose this text for Mother's Day. Or actually, they chose us for the fourth Sunday after Easter, which happened to be Mother's Day. What is the inspiration? I'm not going to answer for you, because I believe everybody has to find his or her own way of figuring out what does that mean. But Tabitha, who cared so much for the widows, nobody else. Widows, I'm sorry, you're dependent on other people. You're dependent on others who help you because you are in need. And then we have Peter doing something which is totally no-nos. What has it got to do with us? This might be the homework for this afternoon while you gather with your family to figure out how you put that text into your context. For me personally, it makes me ask questions. It makes me look deeper. It makes me also to figure out maybe there is not necessarily that line in the sand which separates these from these. Maybe sometimes it's like a winding curve. And maybe sometimes it is what I do for others, because both Tabitha/Dorcas and Peter, they are known for who they are and what they do for others, regardless of what other people think. Both of them are living out their faith in testimony as a conviction of what is close to them. So with all that's going on, I invite you to look, to ask, and to go even a little bit further, and not just to read through it as if this text has nothing to do with us. Amen.